Before they became the poster child for corporate greed and questionable morals in the world of film, television, and theme park attractions everywhere, Disney provided many of us with some of our best childhood memories and showed us the power and impact entertainment could have on people at such a formative age. It's hard to find anyone these days that didn't grow up on something involving Disney, with many of their characters, such as Mickey Mouse and his gang of friends, enjoying the love of generations of fans all around the world. It's almost impossible to put into words the impact that this media powerhouse, established by Walt Disney just over a century ago, has had on entertainment, Western culture, and the world as a whole if we're being honest. While it may be considered popular to rag on Disney these days due to some of their decision making, lack of originality, and handling of their intellectual properties, it's undeniable that the company has a legacy that spans decades and has majorly contributed to the landscape of cinema. As with any company as big as Disney, you're always going to have those who take an interest in their intellectual property and are inspired by it to the point where they decide to go about creating their own projects involving the beloved characters that they popularized. Disney has definitely had its fair share of projects like this, with many of them going against the grain and putting Disney characters in what some might say are very un-Disney-like situations. An example of this is a short film known as Short Subject. Short Subject, also known as Mickey Mouse in Vietnam, was a once lost film that depicts Mickey Mouse happily joining the army and travelling by boat to Vietnam before being shot in the head by an enemy soldier, with blood spilling out of the bullet hole as he bleeds out and dies on the battlefield. Yeah, like most things that are generally seen as innocent with a sense of childlike wonder, filmmakers love to exploit Disney and their brand by creating these twisted and disturbing projects featuring their characters. While this still happens to this very day, one of the first people to do this back in the mid-1960s was special effects artist Robert Swath with his risque short film Uncle Walt. This short film has been an infamous piece of lost media for a very long time, as it has not been publicly screened in over 40 years and was seemingly gone forever without much of a trace. However, there has been some updates, and with the potential new hope of copies of the film existing, I thought now would be a good time to discuss the history of this peculiar and mysterious film. So sit back and enjoy as we take a look at the mystery of Uncle Walt, the lost unauthorized Disney film that the majority of the public has yet to see. To start off with, it's probably worth going back to the film's conception and where it got its start. For some time it was believed that the film was made by Disney employees back in the mid-50s, however this was untrue as the film was actually produced by then student Robert Swath. Swath has since gone on to become an award-winning special effects artist on films such as Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Star Trek the Motion Picture. But back in his student days in 1964, he produced Uncle Walt as part of the UCLA Animation Workshop. Despite being lost, we do actually have some slightly disjointed plot details of this short that I believe are sourced back to an article on mouseplanet.com from May of 2007 titled Disney Cartoons That Aren't Disney, and boy, you guys better buckle up for this plot because it's a pretty wild one. So the short supposedly begins by showing various images of Walt Disney at different ages throughout his life before panning across a graveyard with hundreds of graves for Perry the Squirrel. This was in reference to Perry, a live-action fantasy film made by Disney in 1957 that was about the life of squirrels. After this, we see versions of Mickey and Minnie Mouse, who apparently look similar in style to how they appeared in some of their earlier animated shorts, such as Steamboat Willie. They both appear alongside various racist caricatures, outhouse gags, and toilet humour. The film then transitions to a sequence where the female centaurs from Fantasia are working in a red light district with Goofy as their pimp. Wait, what? I did read that correctly, didn't I? Goofy as a pimp. Okay, I don't care how weird or disturbing the rest of this short sounds, I don't think there'll be anything else read here that sounds as insane to me as this guy being a pimp. I think the short might be worth finding just to see that on screen alone. After that incredibly strange sounding imagery, we then transition into a compilation of various disturbing scenes from Disney movies released up to that point, including the evil witch's transformation from Snow White, with a group of rabbit children watching the scenes in horror. The short film then ends with a scene of the dwarves from Snow White gathering around what is called a Mousecum mausoleum to worship what looks like a funeral pyre containing Mickey Mouse, reminiscent to a scene from the 1937 film where the dwarves originate. So yeah, pretty weird stuff. From this summary, it doesn't even sound like there's much of a story to this thing. The film kind of just sounds like a bunch of random dark and disturbing scenes of Disney characters engaging in things that wouldn't get the stamp of approval from Walt Disney himself. My guess is that maybe it was made as some sort of commentary on Disney, or maybe that it was just simply an attempt to provoke some sort of reaction from the audience that first saw it by shocking them with extremely off-brand sequences featuring Disney's characters. The first and only known public screening of Uncle Walt took place at the American Film Institute in 1972 as part of a presentation titled 50 Years of American Animation, and the film is said to be preserved by the Academy Film Archive under the Robert Swath Collection. They even have a listing for the film on the Academy Collection's website. Alas, after its initial screening in the 1970s, the film was never to be seen by the public again, fading off into obscurity with very little evidence around to suggest it even existed in the first place. Until now, that is. That's right, it only took 42 years after its only known screening, but there has finally been some progress on the search for this weird and mysterious lost film, with 2 new potential leads popping up in 2024. One of these leads I found out by watching a recent livestream by lost media icon El Supersonic Q, and it's actually what led me to making this video, so shout out to him, although I'm sure he doesn't need my shout outs, everyone watching this most likely already knows about his channel. Either way, he shared in a livestream that on August 11th, 2024, a 16mm film reel of the short was listed in an eBay auction with a starting bid of $150. The auction stayed live and the reel ended up being sold for $172. The description of the item from the seller stated that the reel was in very good condition with some minor wear and that it was probably some sort of dupe or copy. Most importantly, attached to the listing were various stills and screenshots from the film itself, making this the very first time we've ever seen any footage from the short, a true landmark in the search for this long lost piece of media. Despite the reel being purchased, it is currently unknown who the winner of the auction was and what they plan to do with the reel itself. Hopefully they at some point choose to archive the film online for all of us to enjoy, but as it's possible that it could have just been a random film collector who bought the film and doesn't have any interest in making it publicly available, I'm not going to get my hopes up super high that the winner of this auction will release the film online. Even if they don't end up archiving the film on the internet, it did initially seem like we had another potential way that the film could have been unearthed, but hope for that also seems to be fading. In January 2024, Blu-ray publisher Thunderbean Animation, who specialise in re-releasing old cartoons as high-quality Blu-rays, announced a set called Public Domain Mouse Adventures. This Blu-ray set was set to celebrate the first year of some of Mickey Mouse's earliest cartoons entering the public domain by including all 3 1928 Mickey shorts, additional mouse adventures from other studios, and other rare oddities including the infamous Uncle Walt. This Blu-ray appeared on Thunderbean's website on January 1st of this year for a price of $18.95, however it has since been taken down and as of the making of this video is no longer available for purchase. There was still some hope that we'd get the film released through this collection, as under the Thunderbean status page, Public Domain Mouse Adventures is listed as shipping on September 1st. However, these hopes were soon dashed, as on August 30th, 2024, Steve Stanchfield, owner of Thunderbean, released a statement on Twitter stating that the film would not be released as part of this collection due to several factors related to the film. He went on to make a further post on the Lost Media Wiki forums stating that the decision not to release the film wasn't to do with the Lost Media Wiki community or the Walt Disney Company. And yeah, I'd be lying if I said this wasn't incredibly disappointing. It felt like we were so close to finally getting this film unearthed, and at the last second the rug was just pulled out from under us and now we're not going to see it. While it is disappointing, I can't help but feel there are a few weird parts to the statements that Steve made that, alongside some theorising and wishful thinking, give me a small glimmer of hope that the film may see a release elsewhere. In the first statement made by Steve on Twitter, he said that he understands the disappointment from people and that the film is one that may or may not be unearthed for the larger public at some point. Why would he intentionally add this sentence in here if he wasn't aware of any sort of other re-release happening? Surely he'd just say, sorry to disappoint you, I can't release the movie, and would maybe just move on? I don't know, this part of the statement to me kind of seems like he's hinting at some potential other release that may happen later. His explanation behind not releasing the movie is also very vague and barely has any reasoning behind it. He just says that it was his decision to not release it and it wasn't made for him, but it was the decision that the company needed to make. He also says that it will need to remain a mystery who bought the film and what other copies are out there. To me, this sounds like Steve maybe knows more about this film than he's letting on, and for some reason doesn't want to share more information about it. He did also say not to write to him and ask him to slip you a copy of the movie, so yeah, please don't go and harass Steve about the film or getting a copy from him. He's not going to send us one. It sounds like he just wants to be done with the whole thing, as he has no intention of releasing it for one reason or another, and is offering refunds to anyone who bought the set just for that short, which is commendable. I do respect him for that. Steve did release screenshots of the film to the Lost Media Wiki forums, so he definitely has a copy of it on hand, and he even says in his statement that he's owned a copy as far back as the 80s. The only reasons I can think of for him to not release it at this point is if he didn't want all the attention that would come with a release like this, or that someone else is planning on releasing the film at some point and asked Steve to hold off for some reason. Aside from those reasons, the only other thing that comes to mind is that maybe Robert Swart himself just doesn't want the film out there. It was one of his earliest pieces of work, and he may not look that fondly back on it, so maybe he got wind of this release and contacted Steve asking him to remove the film from the collection. At this point though, it's all just speculation, and it's now pretty likely that we won't be getting anything more from Thunderbean or Steve regarding the film. And that's currently where we stand with Uncle Walt. I actually had to rewrite the last section of this video's script several times due to the new updates and information that kept coming out, and I'm sure by the time this video is out, there will probably be even more information out there. So if there is, feel free to sound off in the comments below and let me know what's going on with this. With the film being removed from the Thunderbean release, it's hard to say when we'll next get a chance to see it. The film was already shrouded in enough mystery as is, but with Steve's lack of explanation as to why he chose not to release the film, and the weird circumstances surrounding the whole thing, it just seems like a breeding ground for more speculation and intrigue regarding the film and its release. When I first heard about this lost film in Blame It on George's Lost Disney video, it just sounded too obscure and strange to ever resurface. I definitely thought it was lost to time forever, and I really did get my hopes up that the Thunderbean release would come through and bring the film out into the spotlight. Unfortunately though, it seems like Uncle Walt will continue to be an enigma of the lost media community as we await another copy or more information to surface so that we can learn more about its history and it will finally become lost media no more. Thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button down below, be sure to hit the subscribe button for more videos like this in the future, and if you guys have any topics that you'd like me to cover, be sure to leave them down in the comments below and I'll be sure to take them into consideration. So once again, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you guys next time. Goodbye.